Since banks in China are nearing insolvency and running out of money, more than 400,000 customers have lost access to their money. That is the actual number. The figure is probably larger if we look further. You anticipate receiving interest payments from the bank when you deposit money there. In a perfect world, the bank will lend your funds to another party while earning more interest. Savings account interest rates hover around 1%, while credit card interest rates hover around 20%. The profit the bank is meant to make is the amount left over after paying you. However, it still indicates whenever you check your bank account that your money is in the bank and is available for withdrawal at any time. And that's as a result of our fractional reserve banking system. Just 10% of the money that banks have access to can be kept by them. The rest must be lent out. Therefore, even though it seems on your bank account that you have money, you don't. That is not an issue when the economy is strong. Most people don't take their entire savings out at once, especially if they total millions of dollars. The best place to hide your money is at a bank, especially given the meager interest they offer, which is typically far lower than inflation. People will rush to the bank to withdraw their savings as soon as they believe their money isn't safe there. But because of fractional reserve banking, the banks will be unable to pay customers, leading to the bank's bankruptcy. In China, 4,000 banks are on the edge of failing. Even if a small number of those banks fail, the results could be disastrous because that could plunge the economy into a crisis that would cause the whole system to implode. And that's only one aspect of the issue. China's housing catastrophe, which we covered in the last video, China banks may face $350 billion in losses from property crisis, is the other side of the coin. S&P Global Ratings assessed that 6.4% of mortgages, or 2.4 trillion yuan, or $356 billion, are at risk. And Deutsche Bank AG is issuing a warning that at least 7% of house loans are at risk. The foundation of China's economy, which appears to be set to collapse, is the country's real estate market. Despite investing hundreds of billions of dollars to save it, the government can only ease the crisis rather than prevent it. Even if China manages to miraculously preserve its real estate market, the battle is far from done. It's unclear whether China's economy will survive the upcoming 6 months. Why is China's economy on the verge of collapse exactly? And why are investors like Cathie liquidating their holdings and permanently leaving China? Give this video a thumbs up and let's get started before we address all of these and many other topics. Despite China's lengthy history, it has endured foreign invasions from Japan and Europe during the previous few centuries. And during most of the 20th century, the nation was so poor that millions of people were unable to put food on the table. 15 to 55 million people perished from famine in the short period of time between 1959 and 1961. Following the Chinese Great Famine for a few decades, Deng Xiaoping's ascension to power transformed China's fundamental ideology. China was cut off. It had little to no trade with the outside world and was quite dubious of it. However, Deng Xiaoping made the decision to make the nation open to foreigners and established special economic zones where foreign businesses could enter and take advantage of China's inexpensive labor. It is more preferable to work 16 hours a day in a factory than to starve to death. Economic zones like Shenzhen and Shanghai became some of the richest cities in the entire globe as businesses poured into China. China's GDP increased from $191 billion to nearly $15 trillion in 40 years. It essentially turned into the world's factory. It produces everything, including low-cost clothing and cutting-edge technology like iPhones. Despite their disagreements, the US remains China's biggest trading partner. The EU is its second largest trading partner, and it sells items to the US worth over $500 billion. China's GDP of $15 trillion may seem enormous, but the country's GDP per person is much lower than you might expect. Its price is roughly $10,000, classifying it as a developing nation similar to Turkey or Russia. If you compare it to developed economies like Germany, Japan, or the United States, it still has a long way to go. The middle income trap is one of the biggest problems each growing country has to deal with. It involves a situation in which a country has enough riches and workers have too much wealth. Of course, they'll ask for bigger pay. The country will lose its competitive advantage as a cheap manufacturer as a result of higher wages, and the company that originally came to China for cheap labor will pack up shop and relocate somewhere else where the cost of labor is still reasonable. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about investing. Let's return to the video. According to a recent Bloomberg story, Apple will begin producing the iPhone 14 in India around 2 months after it launches in China. The first iPhone 14s from India are likely to be finished in late October or early November as a result of the company's collaboration with suppliers to increase manufacture there. India is where China was in the 1990s, and it is making infrastructure investments that will make it simple for businesses to relocate their manufacturing there. Why pay greater wages when you can get the same thing done in India for much less money? It's not just Apple. According to a UBS Evidence Lab survey, a startling 76% of U.S. businesses with factories in China want to relocate their operations abroad by the year 2020. That includes names like Nike, Microsoft, Dell, Intel, and a host of other companies. China and the United States are becoming more tense. What could happen if China wanted to invade Taiwan? What would the US do? It placed similar restrictions on Russia. How will American businesses function in the face of such sanctions? The majority of them therefore intend to move their plants. Companies outside the US, including the Hyundai Motor Group, have also taken action to move manufacturing out of China. The US has made significant investments in ASEAN. The US aims to utilize the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, a political and economic union of 10 member states in Southeast Asia, as an alternative for US businesses to relocate to. No country will risk remaining in China after the West imposed harsh sanctions over Russia, forcing multinational corporations like McDonald's and Starbucks to sell their operations for peanuts. While it would appear that China is wealthy enough to thrive independently of Western corporations, take a look at the cell phones, electric cars, and drones that China is making. It is capable of competing with the US. That's not totally true, regrettably. Even if some Chinese businesses like BYW or Huawei have had remarkable success, they rely heavily on American suppliers for their components. Consider Huawei. It was expanding so quickly that it nearly surpassed Samsung and Apple as the world's greatest smartphone vendor. But something went wrong in 2019 when the US put sanctions on the business. Despite its technological prowess, Huawei was heavily dependent on semiconductors, the key element of a smartphone. And if you look at the businesses that rule this industry, they are all American. Considering NVIDIA, Intel, Qualcomm, and Broadcom ATI, etc., the other three businesses, TSMC, ASML, and Samsung, all operate outside the United States and rely heavily on American firms like Cadence or Synopsys to create their chips. The corporation is now barely surviving as a result of American sanctions. China will face a struggle over the next 10 years in figuring out how to break free of the middle-income trap and create new technologies without relying on the West. Another important concern is whether it will be able to accomplish it after the majority of U.S. corporations have left the country. But that's only one aspect of the issue. The two biggest trading partners of China are about to enter a recession. Investors are selling off their euros to the point that the euro hit an all-time low because they are so concerned that without Russian gas, the EU will experience a severe financial disaster. Without the necessary energy, manufacturers will have to close, as many did in Germany, which will increase unemployment and decrease demand. The U.S. is currently experiencing a crisis of its own. The Fed has been rising interest rates since the beginning of the year, prompting analysts to predict a recession. In fact, there is already a recession in the U.S. However, what is that related to China? For a nation that depends heavily on exports, a financial crisis that lowers demand in its top two trading partners is disastrous. It wouldn't be a big matter if this were the only issue, but banks in China are running out of money and the country is on the verge of a housing crisis. The addition of all these factories will probably cause the economy to experience a severe financial catastrophe. As always, thanks for watching and see you soon. Hope you have learned something from this video. What are your thoughts? Comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the like button and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for you to be updated on our latest videos. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Want to learn more and be more financially literate? Click on the next videos we have in our channel, showing on the screen right now.